Hey guys, my name is Reverend Phoenix and welcome to the Character Design Studio Lesson 4. So in this lesson what we'll do is create a female character design, and for this we're going to use different techniques of putting the figure down. So in the previous lessons you saw me sketch out the character in a much more rapid pace, and in this what we'll do is we'll just take it a little bit slowly. So here what I'll do is I'll really just put down some initial sketch lines to structure the female figure here. So basically it's going to be, let's say, this female character is going to be standing. So in this design what we'll do is create a female character that's, let's say, a queen of a tribe or something, and then we'll move on from there. So since I have this down, what I can do now is just basically take it slowly and sketch out some basic shapes to put down the figure. And here I'm using the techniques that we've gone already over, where we're using basically just some basic shapes to, I guess, initialize the figure in the mind. And what we're doing is really just creating stuff in basic shapes and thinking about everything in 3D forms, and we're being pretty light with how we put the figure down. So now once I have this in place, now notice as to how I'm putting these ideas down, right? I'm very strict with the way I'm drawing. I don't go overboard in my thinking. So now once I have this down, really all I have to do now is just start erasing some of these lines, because now I have the basic structure down, and these light lines that are going to be left behind is going to give you the ability to put the figure down the way you want it to. Right, so this process is keeping the drawing very clean, since we're doing everything lightly. So here I'm going to go through this next phase of drawing, and this is really just now kind of like finalizing the figure the way I want it to look like. And basically it's just thinking about it. And here, let's say maybe we'll make it so her hand is coming towards us. Now when you're creating the female figure, as we went over those ratios and stuff, right, the difference between the female figure really is less lines, right, to define the structure of that figure. When we're doing the male figure, we use more lines to define the structure of the muscles. So it's very subtle. But even here, let's say for the forearm, I'm just being very subtle with the angles, and basically we'll keep improving the drawing till we get it to a point where we're happy with the angles. Right, so it'll still have that sketchy look, but it will get to a point where we'll start cleaning up. It'll become more and more to that professional level. Right, so as I've said before in the lessons, the power of knowing how to draw the figure from your mind and having that knowledge is that it really takes the frustration level out of as to how the figure is going to be structured. You don't have to mess around with the frustration level that the mind hits as to what it should look like. And it's and the drawing process is, as you can see, the proof is on the videos that creating these drawings really doesn't take that long, right? It's really just getting the figure in place as to how do you want it to look like. Now, it's obviously very important that you need to know as to what is it that you're going to be drawing, what kind of pose. So you might want to do some thumbnail sketches. So obviously I did a few thumbnail sketches to get my mind to understand as to how I want this figure to represent itself on paper. Okay, so now I have the initial lines down. Now we can start to think about as to how do we want to start to, I guess, dress up the figure here. So since this is going to be a queen of a tribe, what I'm going to do is, since the eye level is going to be here, I'll just put a small mark over here. I want to give her a crown, sort of like a and then this crown will go against her face over here, almost like a medal. Well, kind of like has a bird feel to it. Okay, so now once I've gotten this side established, what I'm going to do is really just take some tracing paper and trace this side here. To what is it that I drew, and I'll show you what am I going to do here. So once I have this established like this, really just some basic lines here. You don't have to be, you can just be a little sketchy about this, right? Since some shapes are going to be pretty complicated, I'm just going to come here and reverse it just a little bit. So now when I'm going to position it so it looks pretty accurate. Now the thing is that since she's on this angle, this one is going to be a little shorter. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly put this down here, just get some of the lines down, and then we can shorten it up as we move along throughout this sketch here. Okay, so now I have that down. Now we can come back here and clean it up. Right, so we don't have to think so much about it we don't have to guess as to what it's going to look like. Right, so we can use several different techniques here to make symmetrical shapes here. Now it's not all symmetrical, so she's going to have that face over here. So I'll continue on with this, get it to the point that I'm looking to get it to. Okay, so here I've shortened this up on this side just a little bit here, and here I've defined some of the basic features for the face. So what we'll work on now is start dressing her up with, I guess I would say, like kind of like tribal type of culture that signifies that she's a queen. So first I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup here. So here I'm making a kind of like almost like a metal type of a bra here that we will get pretty intricate into how it's going to be put together. Okay, so now once I have some of these basic ideas down now for dressing her up, basically now I'm going through this process of really just cleaning up the lines to what I want them to be like, right? So in the female figure, it's really just these subtle lines and angles that define the contour of her body, right? And you can, especially like in this area here, you'll see like these really subtle angles that give the female figure the structure. So here in this shoulder area, I went a little up over here, right? So it's just those very subtle angles, which are very important in creating female figures. The contour or line drawing, really. So here I'm going to start to give her some ornaments around her neck. Here I'll be really light with some of these designs over here. So what we'll do is give her like a neck brace over here. So here I'm just adding more ideas here that I have to give her that tribal look here. The queen, so she's going to be a queen of a tribe over here. Okay, so one other thing that I do want to show you here is that the light is actually reflecting on this lead here. So if I just do this, you can see how dark the lead really is. And for her, I'm really just using an HB pencil, so it's pretty dark. That. Okay, so at this point, what I'm going to do is now start to put some drapes on her. And here it's really just using just nice flow lines and just gravity. And this area here is going to be dark anyways, and we're going to put some ornaments over here, so this area will be hidden. Okay, so here I've now pretty much added the drapery around her, and here you can see we're creating pretty much defined the gown here. Now for when you're doing drapery, you can use reference if you want, but here I didn't use it because it's really just using logic here as to when the cloth falls. Just think about everything in 3D forms. Now mostly the stuff that I did over here is very let's say a very thin piece of cloth, so there's not much going to be overlapping stuff here like you would in a much more thicker cloth. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is now we're going to move on to now finishing up the crown area over here and then on the top of her head. So in this area we're really just going to be creating very intricate detail stuff here for her crown, and I'm just going to use different ideas here. Again, I'm keeping the design of her towards that tribal culture, right? So she's not going to have too much jewelry. It's really just going to be let's say if this person since this person is from a tribe, what would they use, right? They wouldn't have access to too much metal, so they would use really just basic ornaments, right? Really earthly kind of stuff here. So maybe wood or whatever that they have access to, and this will give the design of this character. Okay, so now what we'll do is move on to her crown area over here. Start to add some details here, the top of her head over here. Okay, and the other thing here is that we'll finish up this area over here on her legs. And for her legs, what we want to do is give her kind of like these braces that she's going to be wearing. Okay, so I think now I've reached a point where we can start to move on to the next stage, and that is we will start to render her in much more realistic form. Now before we do that, since she is going to be a queen of a tribe, it would be a good thing to, let's say, show as to who is she the queen of, what kind of tribe it is. So here I'm thinking, since I'm more geared towards the sci-fi area, what I'm doing is I'm really like mixing and matching different genres together and cultures all at once. So here what we'll do is that we'll create let's say some kind of almost like a goblin type of a creature. So let's say it's going to be sitting over here. So here the point that I'm showing you here really is I'm going to do this a little light over here just to start out with. And here we can add like this flag that he's going to be carrying for her. Now I know that this is a little bit lighter, it's going to come through in a second. So this is going to be, let's say, a flag that he carries for her wherever she goes. So now what we can do is now start to add details to him, right? So the difference here in thinking, you should notice, is that as to how when we created the figure, right? It's almost like you have to be focused in a way of thinking, and that was the point of going through the course for the structure of man, is because now you're focused in as to how the anatomical structure is of the human being. But now when it comes to creating your own characters, and this is something we went through in quite a bit of detail in the sketchbook of drawing techniques, as to how your thinking changes when you're creating original character designs here that no one has ever seen, right? So this is all coming out directly from the mind. So the sketching technique basically here is that you're not going to be making any mistakes, because it's really just a creature that you're creating, and he's like an odd looking and here I'm just going to use that knowledge of the muscle structures and really just change things around here for this creature over here. Right, and I don't have to put too much details over here for this guy over here. Once we have him in place, all we have to do is really just make the forms in 3D. And okay, so here I've defined the goblin in the background. So he's almost like a very weird type of a creature with his leg here and his other knee. He's almost like an organic, almost kind of like almost a Jabba the Hutt, if you will, but he's much more movable. He has a body like almost like an animal. So here he's carrying just this flag behind her. So what we need to do is now just finish her up, and then we'll be done with this illustration. Okay, so to start the rendering process here, I'm just going to be using an H pencil, and here I'm just going to put down some of the initial tones for her. Here I'm just going to be very light with the shadows. Okay, so here we've pretty much come to the end of this concept sketch here. Now again, keep in mind what we're doing here, we're just sketching these drawings out. Finished drawings are going to be much more detailed. Right, so in this process of drawing, what we went through were several different processes of thinking, where when we created this figure for the female, we just used pretty much basic shapes and basic forms, and then when we went over here, we were using a different process of thinking. And again, here you can see it took about I would say 3 hours to complete this sketch for this character design here. So I'll see you in the next lesson. Thank you.